So we began with a keynote presentation on reshaping the concept of partnership, the meaning of our partnership, the targets and goals of our partnership, and what our companionship means in this common journey together when we are challenged by new global, regional, and local issues. It is important to make connections, rediscover our history, and reclaim our identity. We are partners in the global mission. So as we move on from here, from this discussion, let us continue to make our connections, to maintain our solidarity in our response to the suffering of people around us. We are reminded through this discussion of our communion. It is our platform to share, to listen, and to encourage one another in the work we do. Reverend Martin Mikhail said, "We from the North are not know it all or know it better. You are experts," he said to us, "of your church and of your society, of your communities. Yes, we have something to share with others and to offer the world. Our Melanesians' strength of relationship, community, togetherness, our culture of reciprocity, helping, sharing, caring for each other should continue to inform the world that we have something to offer when we see people suffering from sickness, injustice, and violence. The enslavement and suffering of people are not only indicators of needs, but also a call to us for action. We have heard in our discussions the context and time that matters on different issues affecting people. In our PNG context, we have seen resources being tipped or ripped off by global companies and the top people, while the simple people continue to suffer from environmental destruction, social disorder, economic inequality, and living standards have not been improved after 40 years of independence. Our roads, as you see or as you drive along, are deteriorating, bridges collapsing, schools not working sometimes, hospitals and health centers not functioning sometimes. Many people cannot have access to medical facilities and good education for their children. Our government has failed to meet the medium development goals, to uplift poverty, create gender equality, to promote education for all children, to have people have access to good health care, good water, to encourage sustainable development that also thinks about the future generation, to manage our natural resources of our country properly. You have also reflected on a very important question, the first question, about the government, the role of the government. Recently, we have discussions on the issue of death penalty. I was surprised when even pastors within our own Lutheran church supported the proposal of death penalty. We as church must also admit that we have failed too often. Jesus challenged us in the story of the Good Samaritans when we discussed this yesterday. The religious people failed to extend the grace of God simply because they were too busy going to church. They were too busy walking down the street, neglecting their responsibility to others. We too are often too busy about our spirituality, walking to church, but fail to respond to the suffering and the needy. Sometimes we look too far that we do not see the suffering of those close to us. Or we look too close that we do not see the suffering of people out there in the other community. The story of the Good Samaritan challenges us to redefine our identity. And you talked about identity. Who we are and what we are, and our responsibility to others. Dr. Baker, I made reference to you now. He said, or actually you said this morning, we have no other reason to exist except to serve God and to serve others. This was my emphasis in my response to the keynote address by Reverend Martin Michael. So our service should have no limits and no borders between cultures, between races, between classes, between social groups, between nations, between genders, and even between religions if it seems necessary, because mission has no limits. We have learned from our stories and the stories from the Bible, and we have made a lot of reflections. The first story you know and you have shared is about taking responsibilities, forgiving others, making peace or reconciliation, accepting others, living a life of inclusiveness and integration. The second story is also about inclusiveness, service beyond borders, breaking cultural barriers, where and when it is necessary. The third story is about humility and service, even doing dirty jobs like cleaning toilets, as Jesus went down on his knees and washed the feet of the disciples. We are called to engage in service for others because of our identity. We are Christians. This is our identity. We have emphasized the importance of our identity, which is rooted in Christ, who said, I have come not to be served, but to serve and to save the lost, the sick, the suffering, and those who are enslaved by injustice and violence. Being a Christian is to be Christ-like and live a life full of service. In your words, we have also reflected on our cultural identities, which we must not forget. We identify ourselves with our people, our brothers and sisters, fathers and mothers, our chiefs and clan leaders, our communities, and with the environment. We are Pacific people. We are Melanesians. We are Europeans. We are Australians, Americans, and Asians. We have our cultures and values. Let us not forget that there are positive elements of our traditions. We need to embrace the best of our traditions before they break down completely. In the ever increasingly globalized society today. But globalization should not determine our destiny, our decision, and our determinations. We have been liberated and have the freedom to decide how best we can live as individuals, groups, and church. Globalization is a new empire. It has the potential to devalue us and to destroy us, even to rob us of our identity and drag us into its wind direction. Therefore, we need to hang on to the best of our tradition, which is the source of our strength on which we stand. And I know very well you Papua New Guineans, you have the pledge. Please remember. At the same time, we need to embrace the Christian values that we have talked about so much in the last 2 days. The source of our strength and Christian identity. We have shared much about human dignity. Humans are created with dignity. They have the right to self-esteem, the right to self-respect, and the right to live, to express freely, without influence or intimidation. We come to the close of our sharing, of our togetherness, of our discussions, of our listening and learning from each other on a very important central issue that touches human lives, our lives, the lives of others. Freedom, which goes hand in hand with dignity and identity. So we will leave this room today when we finish with new questions. That is not the end of the discussion. With new questions to redefine our identity, our dignity in the face of change that continues to reshape the world and the way we live today. This is not the end, and I emphasize, not the end of our story and our sharing of our collective concerns, but the beginning of our response to human suffering. You have all been engaged in various ways in addressing various issues, and I am sure you have a heart for the people you serve in the little jobs you do. The little you do to continue to inform the world that people need to live in harmony. The little you do to continue to proclaim justice, peace, and harmony is an extension of God's mission. It makes a big difference in the world, even if people may not see what you do. God is with you in this journey. May God continue to give you and give us together a discerning heart to serve. Our collective vision is to have a peaceful society where people can live in peace and harmony. Thank you very much for taking part and sharing your ideas. I wish you all the best in your future journeys. Thank you.